So, welcome to your spiritual awakening. So, if you're listening to my voice, this means you have found out or figured out you are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human experience having a spiritual experience, which they taught you. So now you're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? I got you. That's what I'm here for. Welcome to Healing the Healers. I'm your host, Kayla New York. On this, I want to make this a series. It's a series on spiritual awakenings because I was sitting here and I was thinking and talking to my spirits, and I was like, hey, I remember in 2015, that's when mine started. It was a lot of weird. It was so weird. It was 100% so weird. And I had to look kind of, sort of, but not really. Because I always say that since we are the ones who wrote the story and all that, we left ourselves clues. I know I would leave myself clues. So I know I left myself clues as into what I'm supposed to do to get through this game. And yes, if you did not know that too, this is a game. You need to see it as a game, because when you see it as a game, you can move through the levels, kind of like playing Mario Brothers, or I am not a video game person, but like a puzzle game. I love puzzle games, right? So every level, there's a game that I'm playing. Every level that I beat, the other level is harder. And then it's harder, and then it gets really hard. It even says those names. It goes hard, really hard. And then there's another level that is just coins. You just collect coins, and it's amazing. And I've been playing it for a very long time. And I've learned a few things from that game that I'm going to share with you now. What I learned from that game is you need to put in money to the game in order to keep playing. You have to. You have to put money into the game, because I can always tell when the whatever algorithm or whatever controls the game, whatever code is in the game, after a while, I cannot beat a level unless I buy something. And then once I buy something, all of a sudden it gets a little bit easier. And I don't know if it's psychological or is actually how the game works. But once I buy something, and it's not expensive, but once I buy something, that's when it starts to be fun again, right? But I have to have credits to buy something. So I have to get the credits. So that's how life is. You have to have a certain amount of credits in order to be able to get through certain levels. There are certain levels that you're going to have money. You're going to, and I've been in levels with no money, and I've been in levels with money. The with money is a lot more fun. But you move through it a lot quicker. And you might not learn the lessons that you should learn when in those times. And that's what ends up triggering the I don't have enough money times. Because when you did have enough money, you didn't quite use it the way you should have strategically. I'm talking about myself. You can be a completely different story, but I'm talking about myself. And it might not be money. It might be your time, because that was part of it too. It might be your time. It might be, your energy that you're giving away to other people. It might be, it doesn't have to be a specific thing, and it doesn't have to be just one thing. But what I'm saying is to play this game, you have to have some type of credit so you can, and currency, so that you can maneuver and move through it. And currency isn't always monetary. And that's something that I found, because there are times where I give my energy or my expertise, and that's what produces money. So it's like, if don't chase money. That's something that I've learned too. If you can play the level without buying anything, just play the level, learn it, figure it out. I'm telling you, this is what I learned from playing this game. Just figure it out. You don't need to buy right now. Let's see if we can pass this level without getting more credits or using the credits that we have. That's how this game works. Like literally in the flesh. That's how it works, right? And you're going to have gifts, and you're going to need to use those gifts. There's a ball that once you get to 10 credits, it turns, but you have to pass like 10 levels. Once you pass 10 levels, you get this super ball, right? And it'll wipe out like the color. So if you click it, it'll wipe out all the color blues, right? But this special ball, when you click it, it not only wipes out the blues, it picks another random color, and it does that. And it does it twice. So like if you have like a thing that clears stuff and you press it, it's going to do it twice. So it's like you want to get that. So that's something that you aspire to. And that kind of fits into the, I want to make more money. I want to grow my following. I want. That's why you're doing it, because you feel that once you do that, it's going to double what you're already getting in. You see how the game, like, it's like, I can't make this up. The game is teaching me how to maneuver this game. And with your spiritual awakening, you're going to go through different stages. There's going to be the discovery stage, which in the beginning is extremely fun. It really is, because everything is brand new. You're learning. It seems like you're learning stuff that you already knew, but forgot for the first time. And it's amazing. And then you try it out, and everything is brand new. Everything is fun. Everything is, oh my God, this is so cool. And oh, you get the beads, and you braid your hair, and you let your natural hair grow out, and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna take part in this, and I'm not gonna take part in that, and this is what I'm gonna do. You're gonna go to yoga class, you're gonna work on your breathing, all these other spiritual things. You're gonna learn what astrology is and numerology, and you're just gonna soak it all in. That is the discovery phase. Enjoy it. I'm not gonna go past the other phases, but the discovery phase is what you're in right now. You are in the discovery phase of your spiritual awakening. And everything is going to just sparkle. I'm telling you that right now. Everything is going to just sparkle. And you're going to start watching YouTube. And weird YouTube videos are going to start popping up. And different people are going to start popping up. And you're going to go on TikTok. And then TikTok people are going to be talking to you and telling you things and sharing things with you. And you're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God. And if you watch my channel, you know how to muscle test. And you know how to communicate with your spirits through muscle testing. So you're going to be getting confirmation that what you're saying is true, or what you're saying is not, what you're seeing is not true. So it's going to be a discovery phase. It's going to be amazing. And like I said, the first thing I want you to do is soak it in. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's fun. Write everything down. Write it down. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not a writer, write it down. Write down what you're being taught. The things that like jump out to you, write it down. Because it's funny, if you see my bookcase, I have a bunch of books in my bookcase, and I have one, two, three, four shelves. I have, yeah, I have four shelves, right? And um, only one shelf, yeah, only one shelf has books that I didn't write or didn't notebooks that I didn't write in. The other shelves are my tarot cards, but the other two shelves, they have just notebooks of stuff since 2015 and maybe before, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot of different things on how to navigate what's happening, because when I was going through it, there were YouTube was pretty popping with it, but there was no one in my family that was doing it. There was nobody in my friend group that was doing it. Nobody. Well, I had a woman, but she wasn't, I think I went past the level that she was at. And that's what kind of separated us, because she introduced me to it. And I was just like, because I knew something, there was something. I knew I wasn't being told something. Before my spiritual awakening in 2015, before that, I was a Catholic. I was born a Catholic. I went to Catholic school from like kindergarten to 8th grade. We had nuns and everything. Yeah, those nuns were scary. We had nuns and all that other stuff. And it's like, you can always tell a kid who grew up in Catholic school for two ways. There's two ways you can tell a person who grew up in Catholic school. One, their penmanship is gorgeous. We have very pretty script penmanship. Well, my age group, they have very pretty script penmanship. I think they stopped teaching script, or maybe not, because Catholic schools are different. And you usually sit with your hands folded. Your hands are either folded in your lap, or they're probably folded right now. If you're not, there are times that I catch myself, I'm laying down and just chilling, and then I look at my hands and my hands are folded. They're folded within each other, like the prayer. Or like when I'm talking and I'm trying to make a point, I fold my hands in together. It's like bowing. It's weird. It's like a weird thing. That's for me. That's how I can usually tell if somebody went to Catholic school, or some type of like military or boarding school, but predominantly Catholic school. So it's like, I grew up Catholic. Then as I got older, I think in my early 20s, I became a Christian, and I did the whole baptism thing, did the dunking in the YMCA pool, all white, and like my hair's wet and all that other stuff. And I remember the dress that I was wearing. The dress that I was wearing was my wedding dress. I wore my husband's wedding jacket, and I wore my wedding dress for when because that's all I could afford. I was like, all right, I already have a dress, and I don't really like wearing white because I get it dirty. So for me, I needed something all white, and that's what I got. That's what I used. And it was a really good day. I felt different. I don't know why I felt different, but I felt different. And it was fun. It was fun. It was, I maybe that was when I had like my first spiritual awakening, because that's when I started to really understand the Holy Spirit, because they talked about the Holy Spirit a lot in church. And I was like, okay, what is that? So then, and I've always been curious. So I would sit and I would listen. The pastor I had, he was an excellent teacher. He really was. He was an excellent teacher. And I wanted to know. I read the Bible cover to cover, because I wanted to understand what he was talking about. Because he would tell stories and I didn't know what stories he was talking about. So I would go read it so I can understand the story for myself. So I've been doing this for a while. So I don't know if maybe that, I should say, back then was where I had my very first spiritual awakening. And then once I learned that the sounds that I was hearing was the Holy Spirit, it kind of changed things for me, because I was just like, oh, I can hear that. Like, oh, that's not me. I remember when I realized, I was like, wait, that's not me. And then it's like, they were like, no, that's not you. That's the Spirit. What does it sound like? And then I would tell people what it sounded like. And they're like, oh, no, that's the Spirit guiding you. I was like, oh, is that what that is? And they were like, yeah. So I started to lean more into it. I did. I started to lean more into it. And then my tenure at church, being a Christian, was over, because I reached a certain level where I outgrew it. And this is not for anyone else to make their stance on church. I outgrew the same sermon over and over again. Like, we did this sermon already. Why are we still preaching about, whatever we're preaching about? We did this already. And when it started to repeat, I was just like, oh, maybe it's time for me to move on to what's next. But I didn't know what was next. I did know that I outgrew it. So I left. No one forced me out. I didn't, I wasn't upset. I was just like, yeah, it's time for me to go. It's kind of like graduating college. You graduate college, you move on to do something else. So that's what I thought these things were, right? So then I started working at the Department of Finance. And before that, I started watching like different YouTube was really like out for a while. And I was watching like different things on, I forgot what it was, but I didn't really like astrology, but I really, really didn't understand it or really pay attention to it. And then I met a woman at my office, and she was like, hey, you should get a reading done. And I was just like, I should get a reading done. She was like, yeah, you should get a reading done. And I was just like, okay, didn't know what that was, but I knew it was like a tarot reading or something. So I was just like, all right, whatever. So I met with the lady, and she did my astrology chart. So she did the reading. And it's funny because she gave you, this is how long ago it was. She gave me a cassette tape. I had 3 of them. I only know where one is. The other 2, I don't know where it is, but I do want to find it. And I think I need to get a Walkman. Those who know what I'm talking about, I need to get something that can play a cassette tape. Because I want to hear, because that was from 2015. So I want to hear what I want to hear what she said. But at the same time, I remember her going to me before I left, I can't wait to see what you write. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Because I really wasn't writing yet. So I was just like, what are you talking about? Now I have books published, which is crazy, which is absolutely crazy, but I digress. So meeting that lady changed everything, because she told me I was a Pisces rising. And when she explained it to me, I was just like, this is not what I wanted. I didn't like it. So I was just like, all right, whatever. So remember, I told you I was already listening to the Holy Spirit. So I still heard it. So all I felt was like a nudge going, why don't you go on Cafe Astrology? Or Astrology Cafe, I don't remember which one it is, but they were like, you look up your birth chart. So I punched in my numbers, and I sat there and I looked at it. She got my rising wrong. She got my rising completely wrong. And I was just like, oh, she was wrong. She was wrong about my rising. So I was like, if she was wrong about my rising, what else was she wrong about? So I started to research it. I started to look into the astrology and see what, what my sun sign is, because I always tell you, you're more than just your sun sign. So I want to know what my sun sign is. I want to know what my rising is. I want to know what my Mercury and all that other stuff. No, I'm lying. I didn't know anything about Mercury yet. I just wanted the rising. All I knew was the sun, the rising, and the moon. That's the three that I wanted to know. Now, my mother, she had told me that I was born at 4:06 a.m. So I was just like, okay. I was shocked that she remembered, but I was like, oh, okay. So I plugged in 4:06 a.m. and it told me that I was a Libra rising. And I was like, okay, I can see that because, I always want justice. I always want balance. I always want truth, but the whole agreeable thing, I'm not a very agreeable person. Those that know, they know. I'm not very agreeable. I want what I want when I want it, and if I can't have it, we got to have to figure this out, so Libras aren't quite like that for me at the time. And I was just like, but I studied it. And for a whole year, I studied being a Libra. Like, what does it mean? How do they move? Like, and then I would see, but it never quite fit. It didn't. It felt like I was forcing myself to be something that I wasn't, and I didn't quite like it. But I was like, okay, this is what I was told. So one day, same bookcase, I was sitting and I was just like, what is that? And I looked at it and it was my original birth certificate. And my birth certificate had the time on it. So all I heard in my head was, look at the time. And I looked at the time. It was 4:06 p.m. And I was just like, oh my God, for a whole year, I've been studying my descendant instead of my ascendant sign, right? So when I plugged in the numbers, I was just like, oh, I'm an Aries rising. Yeah, that tracks. I was like 100%. That makes sense. That makes and it once I started to like read up on it, I was like, yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do this. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it fit who I was. And I was just like, okay. And I felt real in my skin. And continued my spiritual awakening. And it was exhilarating because it was having my spiritual awakening in the beginning felt like I was being introduced to myself. Like I was being introduced to, hey, this is you. This is who you really are. Minus all the stuff and taking away all the stuff that people put on you. This is who you are. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I started to watch I started to watch Aaron Doughty. That was the first person I started to watch. I started to watch him. Then he introduced me to Bashar and Abraham Hicks. And it's funny because Abraham Hicks is the one that actually explained to me that I create my own reality. And that's when I started being like, because I hated my reality. Oh my God. There were days that it was hard to wake up because all I wanted to do was sleep. I hated my reality. And I did not realize I was the one creating it. But then when I met those people, not actually meeting them, but when I watched this is why I make videos, because it's just like I watch somebody else. I watch someone else, and it's kind of like I'm here to tell you, oh no, their shit works. Like what they told you that, yeah, listen to that person. I tell my people all the time, no. You start with Aaron Doughty with the short hair, and then you go up to it long, and then now it's short again. So it's like you gotta know which one. That's how I did it. And for me, it made me realize that I was living my childhood over and over again. And that is what changed my whole like perspective on things. I was watching myself change and make my boss be my dad. And I was just like, and then when I got that, there is no good or bad. It's just what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It was just like, oh shit, that's right. You understand? If it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just is not going to work for me and I don't need to do it. You know, those are the things that I was taught in my spiritual awakening. I was taught the frame technique. That shit changed my entire life. It was just like, you are here, they are there. You're not one person. Especially my second husband. It was like whatever he did wrong, it was on me. And it was like when I learned the frame technique, it was just like, no, bitch, stay in your frame. Like, stay in your frame. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you. You need to leave that the hell alone. Let him figure that out. That has nothing to do with you. So it caused me to see that the people are over here and I'm over here. That whole he did something with a candle. I didn't do the candle thing, but I understood the concept, so that's what I went with. I didn't do the candle. There's a candle thing. I didn't do it. But yeah, so then I started watching Bashar and I realized that the spirit could talk through you. And I realized that's what was happening to me, because there was times that I was sitting there talking and I would sit and literally just like start writing, or I'll sit and talk to myself out loud. And then all of a sudden I was answering questions that I had. And I was just like, I didn't know that before. How am I knowing this now? You know, and that's when I learned my different spiritual gifts. Like, I didn't know that that was a thing. So this is what I mean. My gifts are my gifts. Your gifts are your gifts. I'm not saying that this is going to happen to you in the order that I'm telling you. I'm just telling you what happened to me so that you can glean whatever you can find off of it. That's why I'm doing it. Because this was literally my process. This was literally the process that I did since 2015 and maybe before that. You know, this was the process. So once I got to Abraham Hicks and the five levels, it was just like, first you got to know what you don't want. Because like I told you, I hated my life. I hated the life I had. I was angry all the time. I was tired all the time. I didn't understand what was going wrong. And I was doing everything. The problem was I was doing everything. So then I sat there and I watched Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks was like, channeled through Esther. It was like, level 1, what do you want? What don't you want? Like, you have to know what you don't want. And I didn't even realize that, because I didn't even realize what I didn't want. And it's like, you have to know what you don't want. So once you figure out what you don't want, then you go to step 2, which is knowing what you do want, right? And then once you get to step 2 and you know what you do want and you're solidified in it, you move to step 3. And step 3 is being a vibrational match. This changed my entire life. Being a vibrational match to who you say or what you want. If you are not a vibrational match to what you want, it won't find you. It won't find you. It will literally walk right past you because the frequency is different. I didn't know that part, but that's what I knew. So I'm going to try to keep it as colloquial as possible. So it's like, I had to understand what I did want and be a vibration to that. You have to match what you do want. If you say you want to have success and be, what does success look like? That's too general. What does it look like? And then you're like, well, for me, success was doing a really good job at my job. You understand? Figuring it out so this person doesn't have to say anything to me. So that's what I started to walk towards. I wanted to be my boss's equal. You know, I didn't want to be a person underneath someone. And that's when I learned he's not my boss, he's my client. That's when I got that. You can fire your client. You just don't want to work with that person anymore. You understand? And that's what I did. So it's like, for me, it was more along the lines of, okay, I gotta be at this level and that. And then 4 is you have to do the work. You have to keep cranking out the work. 4 and 5 is just keep cranking out the work, keep cranking it out, keep cranking out. But what they did not tell you, or I didn't know or maybe they said it and I just ignored it. Once you get to 5, you tend to drop back to 1 because you're on a different level. You get to 5, and 5 is you are killing it. You are just doing it. It's like clockwork. You're doing it. So what happens is when you get to 5 and you level out on 5, you're going to go higher. But in order to go higher, you drop down to 1. You're going to go back down to 1, and it's going to be like, what is not working? What do you want at this level? So do not be like, oh my God, have you ever said this to yourself? Oh my God, I was doing so good and it just went to shit. It went to shit because you capped off at that level and now you got to start over again. Not start over at a lower level or the level you were at, but you're starting off at a higher level. And sometimes it's easier to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. So you're not going to jump out right away. But you have to know what the level is. Does that make sense? So that's what I learned. The beginning was like, oh my God. It was like kids starting to learn how to walk and crawl and stuff like that. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then when they start walking and pulling shit down and breaking stuff and all that stuff, you're like, oh my God, what the hell? Why couldn't they stay still? You know? So it's like that. And it's the same thing, just like the video game or the puzzle game. Every level, you get something else. Every level, you get more tools, you get more understanding, you get more confidence, and you're just going to keep going. You understand? And I'm going to leave it there, especially on a high note. But that's the beginning of my spiritual awakening. That's what happened. You know, I met those people, you know, via YouTube, and it changed me. It changed and elevated me and made me understand things a lot better than I do now. Well, not that I did at that moment, not now, but that's crazy how when you think about stuff, you go back to that, because I remember how I was lost. I was just like, oh my God, I know it's somewhere around here, but I don't know where I'm supposed to be going. And then it was like, hey, come here, learn this, do this, and then try that. And I remember my spirits were like, whatever they say, just believe that it's true. And I'm like, okay, you know, and that's what I did. So I'm going to talk to you about my second level at another time. So I love you guys. Stay up, stay blessed. Deuces, and I'm out.